Variant, standard, title, She asked me to stay late, Part 1, the beginning. ID, 59214. She asked me to stay late. That's how it started, just a quiet sentence in an empty office, long after everyone else had gone home. The city outside was a blur of lights, and the hum of the old ceiling fan filled the silence between us. I remember thinking how strange it was that a few words could sound both casual and deliberate, as if she already knew I would say yes. She stood by the window, arms loosely crossed, her reflection flickering in the glass. The faint glow from the street painted her profile, calm, elegant, with that kind of self-assurance that made everyone around her speak a little softer. But beneath that calm, there was something else. Something that made it hard to look away. "I just need help with these reports," she said. Her tone was even, but she didn't look at the papers, she looked at me. I moved closer, the desk light catching the edges of her hair. I could smell her perfume, something understated and warm, like vanilla after rain. It made the air feel smaller between us. I tried to focus on the documents, but the sound of her breathing, steady, controlled, filled the space instead. When our hands brushed, it wasn't planned. I froze first. She didn't pull away, not right away. Her fingers lingered a second too long before she moved, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear as if nothing happened. But it had. Every nerve in me knew it. "You're quiet tonight," she said, finally breaking the silence. "I guess. I didn't expect to be here this late," I managed, my voice lower than I intended. Her smile was slight, more in her eyes than her lips. "You could have said no." "Could I?" That made her pause. She didn't answer, just turned back to the papers, though she hadn't read a single line. The office light flickered once, as if the room itself was listening. I leaned on the desk beside her, close enough to catch the faint tremor in her exhale. She wasn't untouched by this, whatever this was. There was a pull, subtle and undeniable, a current neither of us had named yet. Outside, rain began to fall, soft, uneven drops tapping against the window. She glanced up, watching it for a moment, then said, almost to herself, "I always liked when it rained at night. Makes the world feel quieter." "Or lonelier," I said. Her eyes met mine again, not wide or startled, just aware. "Maybe both." The room went still. She reached for another folder, but her hand stopped halfway, fingers brushing the edge of the desk near mine. The distance between our hands was deliberate, a single inch that felt like a decision. I could hear the clock ticking behind us, each second stretching longer than the last. She finally looked at me fully, no half smiles, no polite restraint, just that look that strips pretense from a person. A look that said she was thinking something she wasn't ready to say aloud. "I should," she started, then stopped. "What?" She opened her mouth, hesitated, then shook her head lightly. "Nothing. It's late." But she didn't move. Neither did I. The rain deepened, drumming harder now, echoing against the windows like a reminder that the night was still ours to ruin, or remember. And then, just as she turned, her hand brushed mine again, intentional this time. A pause, a breath, the air thick with something fragile. Before either of us could say anything, the door creaked open behind us. We both looked up. And in that instant, caught between the sound of rain and the glow of that single flickering light, I knew I wouldn't forget her, no matter what happened next. Variant, standard, title, She asked me to stay late, Part 2, deepening the conflict. ID, 59215. After that night, things didn't return to normal. We pretended they did, exchanged polite greetings, shared quiet jokes about deadlines, but something beneath the surface had changed. The air between us felt heavier now, threaded with awareness. Every glance, every brush of her sleeve, carried the weight of what we hadn't said. She didn't mention that evening again. Neither did I. But I caught her watching me once, through the reflection of her computer screen, eyes soft but distant, as if she was somewhere between curiosity and regret. It was late again, a week later, when she asked if I could stay to help her finish a presentation. The office had that same quiet hum, the city lights blinking through the blinds. This time, I didn't hesitate. "You don't have to," she said when I arrived at her door. Her voice was calm, but her fingers tightened slightly around the pen in her hand. "I know," I replied, setting my bag down. "I wanted to." She exhaled, almost like she didn't trust herself to smile. "You shouldn't make a habit of that." There it was, the first hint of warning. Not just about work. About us. I found out, slowly, that she'd been divorced for years. She never talked about it directly. I just picked up pieces. The way she avoided questions about weekends, the way her eyes dimmed when someone mentioned home. Once, she told me she'd stopped celebrating her birthday. Said it made time feel slower. "You're not missing much," I'd said. She looked up, meeting my eyes. "You'd be surprised how much a person can miss." The words stayed with me, longer than they should have. That night, as we worked side by side, her shoulder brushed mine every now and then. Accidental, maybe? But I didn't move away, and neither did she. The faint scent of her perfume filled the air, something warm, like cedar, and something sweeter underneath. It reminded me of rain again. "You're good at this," she said quietly, eyes still on the screen. "At what?" "Being here." Her voice almost faltered, then steadied. "It's rare." She leaned closer to point at a line on the page, her breath grazing my cheek. I felt her hesitation, that small, suspended moment where closeness becomes a choice. My pulse stuttered. She noticed. I could tell by the way her hand froze mid-gesture before she withdrew it, fingers brushing mine on the way back. "Sorry," she said. "For what?" Her eyes flicked toward me, that same mix of confidence and something unguarded. "For forgetting where the lines are." She turned away then, but her words lingered between us like static. We finished the work, barely speaking. Yet when I stood to leave, she didn't move. Just watched quietly. I reached for the door, then heard her voice again, softer, almost unsure. "Thank you," she said. "For staying." I turned back. She wasn't smiling this time. Just standing there, her hand resting on the edge of the desk, her eyes holding mine a second too long. I nodded once. "Any time." And before I walked out, she did something small but irreversible. She reached out and straightened the collar of my shirt. Her fingers lingered, gentle, deliberate. It lasted barely a heartbeat. But it was enough to know either of us would sleep easily that night. Variant, standard, title, She asked me to stay late, Part 3, heightening suspense. ID, 59216. The following Friday, the office was quieter than usual, that strange kind of quiet where every sound feels amplified. She'd asked me to review a few design drafts before the meeting on Monday. It was supposed to be routine. It wasn't. She sat at her desk, hair loosely tied, a few strands falling forward as she read. I stood behind her, leaning over her shoulder to point out a section on the screen. The space between us was too small, the air too still. My voice came out lower than I meant. "You could change this layout." Her chair turned slightly, and suddenly our faces were only inches apart. Her perfume, the same faint warmth I'd come to recognize, felt closer, heavier. She didn't move away. For a second, either of us breathed. Then her phone buzzed on the desk, loud, sudden. She flinched, exhaled softly, and looked away. "Sorry," she murmured, reaching for it. Her hand trembled slightly as she read the screen. I caught a glimpse of the message before she locked it, a name I didn't recognize, followed by, "You're still coming tonight, right?" She caught me looking. "It's nothing," she said quickly, too quickly. I nodded, pretending to believe her. But something in her tone, that small crack between certainty and guilt, stayed with me. We went back to work, but the air had changed again. The silence wasn't peaceful anymore, it was charged. Every time our hands came close, one of us would pull away too soon. Every glance ended a heartbeat late. "You're distracted," she said at last, not looking up. "So are you." That earned me a faint, wry smile, the kind that doesn't hide much. Maybe we both should be. The rain started again outside. It had become a strange pattern. Every time the world blurred in water and glass, we ended up here, alone. She stood to grab a file from the shelf, and when she turned back, I was closer than I realized. She stopped short. The movement brought us nearly chest to chest. Her breath caught. Mine followed. You should go, she whispered, though her voice wasn't steady. Do you want me to? That made her eyes lift to mine, soft, uncertain. I don't know what I want right now. We stood there like that, suspended. The rain grew louder. Her hand lifted slightly, like she might reach out, but she hesitated. Then, slowly, she did. Her fingers brushed my wrist, tracing lightly, as if testing the weight of something neither of us could name. Just then, the door clicked. We sprang apart. Her assistant's voice broke through the silence. Sorry, I didn't realize you were still here. The younger woman's eyes flicked between us, too quickly, but enough to notice something. It's fine, she said, her tone snapping back to composure. We were just finishing. Her assistant nodded and left, the door closing too softly behind her. We didn't move for a long time after that. The tension, once interrupted, didn't fade, it grew heavier, more dangerous. She finally turned to me, her voice barely above a whisper. This can't keep happening. I stepped closer anyway, my pulse too loud to ignore. Then tell me to stop. She didn't. She just looked at me, a look that was half surrender, half warning, and said quietly, Don't make me. Variant, standard, title, She asked me to stay late, part 4, nearing the climax. ID, 59217. It happened the following week, the night everything finally cracked. She'd been distant for days. I told myself I wouldn't care, that it wasn't my place to notice. But when she passed by without meeting my eyes, when her voice stayed polite instead of warm, it felt like something was unraveling inside me. That Friday, I found her still in her office after everyone had left. The lights were dim, her jacket draped over the chair, sleeves rolled up, hair falling in uneven strands around her face. She looked tired, but beautiful in a way that felt unguarded. You shouldn't be here, she said when she saw me in the doorway. I could say the same to you. She exhaled, rubbed her temple. You don't understand. People talk. They notice things. I don't care what they think. Well, I do, she said sharply. Then softer. I have to. I stepped closer. You're afraid of being seen with me? Her eyes flashed, but not in anger, in something closer to panic. You're young. You don't know what it's like to be judged for wanting something you shouldn't. The word wanting hung between us, heavy and dangerous. Then tell me you don't, I said. She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Just silence, thick and fragile. I took another step, close enough to see the faint rise and fall of her chest, the tremor at the corner of her lips. You think I haven't tried? She whispered. Every day, I tell myself to stop looking at you. To stop. She stopped herself, eyes closing like the confession hurt to finish. Her voice trembled. You make it hard. I didn't mean to touch her, but my hand lifted, instinct, gravity. My fingers brushed her cheek, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. Her breath hitched, her skin warm under my palm. She didn't pull away. Instead, she leaned, just slightly, enough for me to feel the space disappear. Her voice was barely a whisper. You shouldn't do that. Then tell me to stop. I said again, the same words as before, but this time my voice wasn't steady. She turned her face toward mine, so close our breaths mingled. I can't. The rain outside came in sheets, tapping hard against the glass. It sounded like the night itself was waiting for us to make a mistake. Her hands came up, one resting against my chest, not to push me away, but to hold herself steady. The warmth of her touch burned through the thin fabric of my shirt. I could feel her pulse in her fingertips. Fast. Uncertain. Mirroring mine. Say something, I whispered. Her eyes lifted, full of something raw and unguarded. This is already too far. And yet she didn't move. Her thumb brushed absently against my collarbone. My breath caught. Then why are you still here? I asked. Her lips parted, a faint, trembling breath between us. For a heartbeat, the world narrowed to that space, that almost. Then, a sound. The click of a key in the hallway. We both froze. The door handle turned slightly, stopped. Silence again. She closed her eyes, stepped back, barely whispering. Go. I didn't. Not right away. Because for that one impossible second I knew, if she hadn't heard that sound, she wouldn't have stopped me. Variant, standard, title, She asked me to stay late, Part 5 The Twist. ID, 59218. The following Monday, everything felt wrong. She avoided me, not with distance, but with precision. Every movement rehearsed, every glance averted just before it met mine. It was as if she'd rewritten the air between us, stripped it of what had happened, or almost happened. But pretending didn't erase it. It only made it louder. By midweek, she called me into her office. Her tone was professional, too even. The kind of calm that comes right before something breaks. Close the door, she said. I did. The click echoed too sharply in the small room. She didn't look at me at first. Someone mentioned us. My chest tightened. What do you mean, mentioned? Word travels. She leaned back in her chair, fingers laced together to stop them from shaking. Apparently someone saw you leaving my office late. Twice. My stomach sank. Who? It doesn't matter. Her voice softened, but her eyes stayed guarded. You know how this looks. Like what? I asked. That we stayed late? That I helped you with reports? Like something else, she whispered, barely audible. Something we both know isn't supposed to happen. Silence stretched. The tension between us wasn't just attraction anymore. It was fear, guilt, and something deeper neither of us could name without ruining it completely. Finally I said, Tell me the truth. If you regret it, if you don't feel anything, I'll stop. Her eyes flicked to mine. You think this is about regret? Then what is it about? She stood suddenly, the chair sliding back. It's about the fact that I. She stopped herself, shaking her head, pressing a hand to her forehead. This is a mistake. I stepped forward. A mistake you keep making. Her breath hitched. Don't. You keep saying no, but you don't mean it. That broke her. Because I can't mean it, she said, voice trembling now. You think I don't see how young you are? How people would look at you, at me. Her eyes softened, and for a heartbeat her voice dropped. You make me forget how old I am. The admission hit the air like a spark. For a moment, everything stopped, the ticking clock, the hum of the city outside, even the space between us. I moved closer slowly. You don't act like someone who's forgotten anything. She laughed, quiet, sad. You have no idea how much I've remembered. Then she reached for something on her desk, a small framed photo I hadn't noticed before. A man, smiling, arm around her. Younger than I expected, maybe 10 years ago. My ex-husband, she said softly. He worked here once. Before you ever did. I stared at the photo. That's why you never. She nodded. He left after an affair. With someone he mentored. Her voice cracked on the word mentored. And now I'm. Her words faded. She didn't finish the sentence, because she didn't need to. I took a step back, my throat dry. The air was thick, suffocating. You think I'm him? Her eyes flickered, full of conflict. No, she whispered. But part of me is terrified you're not. We stood there, silent, the truth between us sharper than any confession. Then, almost against her own will, she whispered, Don't come by tonight. I nodded. But even as I turned to leave, I knew either of us would listen. Variant, standard, title, She asked me to stay late, Part 6, the climax. ID, 59219. It was raining again that night. I told myself I was just walking, nowhere in particular, no plan, but my steps led me back to the building anyway. The glow from her office window was the only light left on the entire floor. I stood outside for a long time, soaked, knowing I shouldn't go in. And then I did. She didn't look surprised when I opened the door. Just tired. Resigned, maybe? The kind of tired that comes from fighting something too long. I told you not to come, she said quietly. I know. Her gaze dropped to the floor. You don't listen very well. I took a breath, steadying the shaking in my voice. Neither do you. That made her smile, faint and sad. She turned toward the window, her reflection faint in the glass. The rain outside blurred everything, the city lights, her outline, the distance between us. I thought if I ignored it long enough, it would fade, she said. That wanting you was just a moment. And now? I asked. She turned slowly. Her eyes met mine, steady, unguarded for the first time. Now it feels like a choice. I stepped closer, the sound of rain filling the quiet. Then choose. Her breath caught. For a moment, she didn't move. The clock ticked in the background, the faint hum of the building the only witness. Then she took a small step forward, closing the space between us until I could feel her warmth. This is wrong, she whispered, though her hands trembled as they hovered near me. You'll hate me for it someday. Maybe, I said. But not tonight. That broke her composure. Her hand lifted to my face, fingers brushing away a drop of rain from my hair. The touch was light, hesitant, but full of everything she'd been holding back. I leaned into it, just enough to feel her pulse against her palm. Her voice softened, raw. You don't know what this costs me. Then let me be the one who pays, I whispered. Her eyes searched mine, for regret, maybe, or reason, but found neither. She stepped closer until our foreheads nearly touched, breaths mixing, silence trembling between us. The world felt suspended, rain slowing, lights dimming, air heavy with the unspoken. I can't do this halfway, she said finally. If I start, I won't stop. Then don't stop, I murmured. Her lips parted, not in words, just a breath. 1 heartbeat. 2. And then her hand slid to the back of my neck, gentle, trembling, pulling me closer. We hovered there, caught in the edge of something irreversible, the kind of moment that defines everything after it. Then, just before it happened, she closed her eyes and whispered, Promise me you'll remember me kindly. And she kissed me. Not desperate. Not cautious. Just honest, full of the ache of every held-back word, every night spent pretending we didn't feel this. When we finally pulled apart, she didn't look away. Her voice was steady now. Now you understand, she said. And I did, that some choices don't save you. They just make you feel alive enough to stop running. The rain had stopped by morning. The world outside her window was washed clean, soft light spilling through the blinds, the city muted and still. We sat in silence, the kind that didn't demand to be filled. Her head rested lightly against my shoulder, and for the first time, it didn't feel wrong to let it stay there. Neither of us spoke about what had happened. There was nothing left to explain. Some things, once said, only make the truth smaller. She sighed, quiet and almost content. You should go before anyone sees you. I nodded but didn't move. Do you want me to? She hesitated, then smiled faintly. No. That's the problem. The honesty in her voice settled between us, simple, unguarded. I turned to look at her, really look at her. The lines near her eyes, the faint tiredness that came from years of being the strong one, the careful one. And yet she looked at me with a softness that made everything else fade. You're thinking too much again, she said, brushing a thumb lightly against my hand. The gesture was small, but it anchored me, proof that this was real, not just a moment caught in the dark. I'm just trying to remember it right, I said. Don't, she whispered. Just feel it. Her words hung there, quiet but steady. Then she leaned forward, her forehead resting against mine, that same closeness that used to feel forbidden. Now it just felt true. My hand found hers, fingers sliding together naturally, as if they'd been waiting for this shape all along. You know this won't be easy, she said. People will talk. Let them, I said. They don't know you like I do. That made her laugh softly, a real laugh, low and warm. You think you know me already? Not yet, I said. But I want to. She looked up then, and something in her eyes shifted. That quiet fear that had been there since the beginning finally eased. Maybe because she realized I wasn't trying to save her. I just wanted to stay. Outside, the sun broke through the clouds, faint but certain. She reached up, brushing a strand of hair from my face, her hand lingering just a moment longer than necessary. You're going to make me forget again, she murmured. Then I'll remind you, I said. Every time. For a while, we stayed like that, not rushing, not pretending the world outside didn't exist. Just breathing the same air, the rhythm between us slower now, gentler. When she finally stood, I followed. She handed me my coat, her fingers brushing mine in that familiar, quiet way that no longer felt like hesitation. As I turned to leave, she called softly, "You'll come back tomorrow?" I smiled. "You'll ask me to stay." And in her smile, I saw the answer. The story didn't end with a goodbye, just a door left open, the faint sound of rain returning, and two people finally willing to stop pretending they didn't want to be found.